This tutorial will walk you through the steps of using the discussion board within Blackboard, which again is a really helpful tool to facilitate communication remotely and asynchronously, meaning that everyone does not have to participate at the same time, but given some boundaries or requirements over a number of days or a week, a discussion can take place among either groups of students or an entire class. And so I want to walk you through the steps of how to best use the discussion board. The first recommendation when you're using the discussion board is to add a link to the left-hand side of your navigation specifically for the discussion board. Now this is important because this is not a link that is provided by default in your Blackboard course navigation. So I want to show you how to build that. The first thing is you're going to go up above your course navigation to the plus icon. And in the plus icon here, you're going to choose a tool link. A tool link is a link to a specific Blackboard tool. So the name you can call whatever you want, discussion board, discussions, class discussion, whatever name makes sense to you. Discussion boards is probably the most common, but whatever you prefer. But the type, this is extremely important. It has to be from this drop-down menu, you have to choose the Blackboard discussion board tool. So this is linking specifically to that functionality. And then you do want to check off available to users and then hit submit. When you add this to your course navigation, you can see, just like anything in Blackboard, when you add new things, it appears at the bottom of the list. But if you roll your cursor over the arrow just to the left of that link, you can drag it up in order. See, I've already got one here for discussion board, but I've just added a second. You can move this wherever you want in your list. And then drop down arrow, you can always rename it. You can hide this from students if you're not ready for them to see it just yet, and you can also delete it. So I'm just going to leave this one there. This one here is the one that I already created in the course. So when you click on this link, it takes you to what we call the discussion board dashboard. It shows you all of the forums within the course that have been created. It also shows you how many total posts are in that forum, how many unread posts. So this number is specific to you as the user. It'd be a different number for each person. How many unread messages are replies directly to messages that you've posted, so that should be a smaller number than the overall posts, and then how many individual participants have been contributing within these forums, so how many individuals have been part of this conversation. So the dashboard here is really helpful because it'll tell you quickly as a quick view where there's new messages. You can see actually if I scroll down to this homework 1, it's in bold compared to the titles of the others, because I've got one new message here that I have not yet read, compared to these, which are telling me 0, so that I know that I've read them. Even though there's already 7 messages in this forum, I've read all of those, so I'm up to date on that forum. So let's now take a look at creating a forum. A forum is a sub group of the conversation. So you can see I've got some examples here. You could have forums that are set up by week. You could have them set up around specific activities like this homework. They could be set up around topic. This is kind of like your content areas and folders. Really, whatever organization makes the most sense for your course and your discipline is perfectly fine. You can label these and organize these however you want. Let me just take you through the steps of creating a forum. So at the top here, to add a new forum, you're going to click on Create Forum. You're going to give it a name. So I'm going to say week, I don't know how many weeks we had. I think I'm week 4. Case study number 9. Now, inside this box, it is very important, compared to other things where this box is kind of optional, it's very important that you put in the actual discussion prompt within this description. So whatever your instructions might be, you want to put in here. So let's say, please read case study number 9 and respond to the following questions. We might list out our questions below. And then you also want to have some instructions here about the conversation among the class. So really discussions are much more than just an individual assignment where students might be answering some questions, but it might be read and reply to at least 2 of your classmates by XYZ. I'll let you, figure out the rest and determine how you want to handle that. But some instructions about what the first activity is and what the student's original contribution to the discussion should be about, but then also the requirements about reading and replying to their classmates with under whatever guidance you're giving them for that type of work as well. And usually both of those things are included in whatever type of grade is associated with this type of discussion activity. So whenever those instructions are then posted, let's talk through some of the logistics about how the discussion forum can be set up. So do you want it to be available to students? Yes or no? And then also the dates, like we've seen in many other places in Blackboard. You can create these forums so they don't appear until the future. Also, there's a lot of forum settings here that I want you to take a look at. Some more important than others. The first one here, this can be very important. So standard view means that everyone can see everything in the discussion forum right away, which is the default setting. The next option, participants must create a thread in order to view the threads of others, can be very helpful where the actual questions that you're asking is that original prompt, that the answers to those could become redundant once a number of students have started responding. And so this option, participants must create a thread before they can view others, means that a student coming into this forum will not be able to see what any other member of the class has said until they post their own response. And that, again, can be just really helpful so that students are not reading through what 5 other students have already said about the topic before they write their own response. They have to write their own original response to the questions without being influenced by those other student comments. But once they do write that and post it, then they will be able to see what everyone else has said. They can read through their classmates and they can reply to them. So that can be a very helpful feature for the right types of discussion questions. So consider which of those is the best fit. Then your grading options here. I do recommend, if this is a graded discussion activity, to turn on the grading discussion at the forum level and decide how many points that might be worth. This will create a Blackboard gradebook column for this discussion forum, so you can use it in other calculations, but it will also make the grading that you want to do and record keeping of how many times a student posted and replied much more streamlined from the faculty perspective than if you did not turn grading on. If you're not turning grading on, you can be hunting through the discussion forum in a lot of places to see how one individual student contributed. But if you turn the grading forum on, the gradebook will very clearly show you each student in your class and exactly what their contributions were to this forum. So I would definitely recommend that. You can allow subscriptions. Subscriptions to the forum would be something that each individual can choose to do or not. But allowing subscription means that if you choose to subscribe to that forum, any new messages that are posted to that forum, you would be alerted through an email so that you know they're there. These options are hidden because of the option I chose above around participants must create a thread, because in order for that to work, these things need to be set just this way. If I change this back to standard view, I then have options here of do I want to allow authors to delete their own posts, to edit their own posts, and creating new threads. So that's up to you, again, based on your own preference and then the type of discussion forum you're creating. But in most cases, you want to allow members to create new threads. That's an important piece of what students need to do. Do you want to allow them to add files, to reply with quote? I would not recommend forced moderation, because that means as an instructor, you would have to read and view every message that comes in and approve it before it's posted to the class. So it takes a lot of extra time to do that. And if tagging a post, rating a post, you're more than welcome to use those. They're kind of additional options or features. They're not necessary. Tagging means you're just putting keywords to the postings that you're entering. And then rating the post means everyone in the class can rate how helpful a post is that someone else in the class has posted. Depending on the type of conversation, those may or may not be helpful. So most importantly on the screen, what you should focus on is the name and description of the actual activity. And if you want standard view or participants must create their own thread, and the grading options that you want to turn on. Usually after that, the default functionality is fine. Oh, and I would recommend trying to do a due date that's very helpful for students so they know exactly when this type of activity is due. Okay, so once you're done with that screen, then you can hit submit. Just like everything else in Blackboard, that will appear at the bottom of your list. But if you want this to be somewhere else, you can use the arrows to the left. Move it up, move it down, wherever it needs to go. So that's your discussion forum. Now, to engage in the discussion forum, both instructors and students will click on the link with the name of the forum. And now inside the forum, what you'll do, what you can do and what students will do is create a thread. So a thread is usually that original response. You can see the actual discussion prompt is provided, whatever was in that description. So let's see. So this might be my response to case study 9. I would provide whatever my response was to that case study. You can attach files here, but I do recommend that students do not write up and post their entire discussion like in a Word document and then just attach it, because it's not the easiest way to read it on the screen, especially when you have replies going back and forth. So I would try to encourage students to keep the majority of their actual response within this box. What this can be helpful for if there's supporting material or they're referencing a PDF or something else that they're attaching kind of as supplemental material to what their response is, that could be done through an attachment. Okay, so then the student would hit submit, and this is what a thread would look like. In most situations, each student would then post their own thread. So this list then, as the days go on throughout a week, may show 15 or 20 responses based on each of the students in the class and what their response was to case study number 9. Now, after some given date where they needed to post their response, this is when students then may be required to view what other students in the class had posted and start replying to them. So if I was another student, I could go right into this discussion forum. Same thing, I can see now there's one post here, so I could click on week 4, case study 9. I can see another student's post. I would be able to click on this to view what their post was, and then right from here is where you'd be able to reply. Whatever their reply message would be. Again, they could attach files to reply if they need to, and hit submit. And you can see this is now where kind of the back and forth conversation can take place. So on just this one thread. Now, always in the bottom right, you'll see an OK button. That'll take you to the screen you were on just before. And so this is a threaded discussion. The forum is the larger overarching topic, in this case related to case study 9. Inside of the forum are threads, hypothetically one thread from each student in the class, and then the conversation or replies happen among those threads. So it's a multi-threaded conversation, multiple conversations on the topic taking place at the same time, but asynchronously, again, so probably over a number of days, usually over the course of a week. Okay, so that's the creation and the using of the discussion forum within the course. Now let's take a look at the grading of that discussion forum. So what I recommend for grading is, again, in the needs grading area, just as we looked at for the grading of assignments, the needs grading will show up right here with the name of the discussion forum, the name of the student that posted, the dates that they posted, and you'll be able to click on that student work to see exactly what any one individual student in the class posted across that entire forum. So that will include both the threads that they have posted originally as their own thread, and then also any replies to other students in the class, even if they live on other threads within this forum. So it'll show you everything from one student, and you'll be able to assign a grade as well as provide any feedback to the student about how well they met the objectives of that assignment. So all of that will take place within the needs grading area, and if I jump to full grade center, you'll actually see, again, all the way to the right, you see because I turned the grade of the forum on, I now have a column for week 4 case study 9, and same thing, all of those grades would be, for each of the students in the class, would be available right here within that list. So that is the use of the grade book for grading discussion